Now, negotiation sessions notwithstanding, the teachers' strike entered its fourth day today, and so far there is no clear end in sight. So the government has rejected a 47 billion shilling salary demand by the teachers and proposed a 9.3 billion shilling deal for allowances. But the teachers' unions have rejected the government's offer because it lacked a salary component. Tonight, we're having a conversation about this impasse with Dr. Lydia Nzomo, who is the chair of the Teachers Service Commission, and we're also joined by Ali Noor Ismail, who is the PS Ministry of Labour. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Right, so we've seen a deadlock there, but the question I really want to ask is why have we not come to an agreement yet? What problem is the government having in terms of just finding an agreement with the teachers? I'll start with you, Dr. Nzomo.
Thank you very much indeed. The government actually doesn't have any major problem with negotiating with the unions. The unions did present a list of 39 demands to the government and to Teacher Service Commission in particular. And the Teacher Service Commission has addressed 38 out of the 39 demands. So really the government has done a lot, because what is remaining is the issue of the basic salary.
Yes, and that seems to be the biggest issue as far as the labour unions are concerned. Yeah. So will there be any leeway at all? We're now hearing that they need to wait for some kind of evaluation. Will there be any movement at all in terms of the government side?
Yeah, there should be, and not only on the side of the government, but also on the side of the unions, where we would really appeal for the understanding of the teachers' unions. Because when it comes to basic salary, we have emphasized this time and again that the basic salary for teachers has been harmonized with that one of the other civil servants. And this was done only in 2012. Now, the government would have to really justify further salary increment, and not only for one sector, but for the sectors. It's for this reason that job evaluation is being carried out, so that when the government decides to increase the salary by a percentage, that percentage is justified. It's not just imaginary. To say 50%, 100%, 200%, you see, it needs to be justified. And then the government will check how sustainable it is across board.
So that's definitely understandable, but and I'll pose this next question to you,
yes.
Ali. You see, yes, the teachers do understand that the government has to harmonize a few things, but, and I'll reference this tweet from someone called Githua75. He says, if the government can award MPs and MCAs with hikes and extra allowances, why can't they sort teachers? So the question is there no money for this because there's a labor aristocracy in the public service, in the sense that you have the people at the top earning a lot of money and leaving none left for the teachers?
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy, and thank you for having me in your studio. I think, let me just put, as I answer your question, some of the issues in perspective. First of all, let me talk about the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And as you are aware, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has a constitutional role to do two things. First, to actually set and review the salaries for all state officers. And two, to actually play an advisory role at a constitutional level with regard to the remuneration and benefits of all other public officers. And in doing this, it looks at the fiscal sustainability of the total public wage bill, compensation bill. And so this is actually where we are coming from. Whereas unions have an opportunity to negotiate with their employers at the micro level, at the macro level, because of issues of sustainability of the public wage bill, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has actually come. With regard to, as you know, teachers are very many. And the amounts of money that involve teachers because of the sheer numbers is actually quite large. And you have talked about MCAs and a few others. Can I tell you that in respect of those officers, already a job evaluation exercise had been done. But remember there, you are dealing with fewer numbers. Yeah. And what actually government is saying is that, look, we are not actually locking the door to actually a basic salary negotiation. But it's a process of time. It's just simply deferring that decision for that time.
But this is a conversation that has been going on for so long. We always have, year after year, there's a strike, there's a conversation that is had, but it never seems to be solved. So do we think that in these 8 months after the job evaluation, we will have this matter sorted for good?
Let me just tell you about, first of all, job evaluation. I think perhaps those who don't have a background in HR may not appreciate the importance of job evaluation. You see, in the context of an organization, and the public service is the largest organization. Actually, I will call it a super or a mega organization. Organizations always carry out a job evaluation from time to time, periodically, let me say, with the sole objective of actually establishing the relative worth of one job as against another. So that if you pay Nancy so much and you pay Mr. Ishmael so much, you want to have an objective basis for actually deciding that decision to pay you so much and pay me so much, and pay here the chairperson a different amount. This, as you're aware, has never been done in the public service. And I think it's for precisely this reason and many other reasons, including the question of sustainability and having an objective criteria, that in the first place we put in place the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. And we are not saying that actually that will not happen. It's a matter of time. This could be done in 8 months, it could even be less. And all that the government is saying is wait for only that period. The other thing, I think there's a fallacy which has been created, that you cannot have a CBA without actually a salary component. Already, first of all, in their previous negotiations, teachers already have a salary. I think the point of dispute here is that increment portion on the salary that is already obtaining as a result of which would have come from a process of negotiation, which is now been put on hold. And CBA, it's all a question of negotiation. You can have a CBA of all the other issues that have largely been agreed as you await the issue of the salary negotiation, which, when finally negotiated and agreed, can also become part of the CBA.
All right, let's talk about the way we're handling this strike specifically, and I'll pose this question to you, Dr. Nzomo.
Yes, thanks.
Some of the county directors in charge of education have actually been directed to take note of those who are attending class and those who are not. What kind of action do you hope to take against these teachers who do continue to strike?
The idea, Nancy, is that there is a contract, some agreement between the employer, who is the Teacher Service Commission, and the teacher as an individual. Just like here, you have an agreement with KTN as an individual, and KTN will pay you because you work for them. So the employer here is insisting that teachers who don't work actually should not be paid, because one thing we are saying that this strike is illegal. It's not illegal, it's not protected, and according to law, and labor laws are there, when a person participates in a strike which is not protected, it's illegal, then they are not supposed to be paid. So teachers who participate in this particular strike, the employer will not pay them. As simple as that. Because it's not legal, they are not working, and therefore there will be no justification for paying them.
So they will not be paid, but no further action will be taken against them?
No, that is just one. You see, you start by not paying and institute other disciplinary procedures that are very well stipulated in the Code of Regulation for Teachers, and teachers are privy to this information, that disciplinary action, in addition to loss of salary, is likely to follow.
So, and I will ask you,
Yes.
Ali, in a situation like this, we've seen that obviously it's the children who are suffering. These are hours that they will never get back in terms of their education. Don't you think there is need to have some kind of system or some kind of policy put in place that when something like this happens, when the government and teachers fail to agree, work can still go on and the students do not end up suffering?
I think that is, Nancy, really, that would have been the best situation which all of us would have wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the matter is that that is not what's on the ground as we speak today. Let me just talk about the right to strike, because really this whole situation is emanating from the right to strike, yes. Under the Bill of Rights, Article 41, that is provided. But remember, the enjoyment of that right should not infringe on another right. As you know, under that same Bill of Rights, children have a right. Children have a right. And one of the rights that children have is the right to education. Let's talk about, for example, a nurse or a doctor who will strike, although this is not what we're talking about now. If a patient has to die in ICU or in a ward because health personnel are on a strike, it infringes on that right. So that right is there, but it is actually not in itself absolute. So I agree with you that we should have a situation where when there's a strike, actually the students or the people should not suffer. The reality of the matter is that the pupils are already suffering, and I think this is why government wants to have this strike resolved in the best possible way,
right,
so that they're able to actually go back. The other thing that I should tell you is that under the Labor Relations Act, all the way from Section 62 all the way to 72, there is a very elaborate procedure that is provided, for dispute resolution. Normally what's supposed to happen is that the parties talk at their level, bipartite level. When they don't agree, they are then supposed to actually report a dispute to the Minister for Labor, who will then appoint a conciliation team,
But
and
clearly
thereafter
that is
bring.
not
And
really
that is
working.
not what has actually happened. So the whole process was not followed, and I think you already are aware that the court has actually said, for that reason and many other reasons, this strike is actually not legal.
It's
Yes.
illegal. But
Yes.
as we wind up, my final question to you, and a very simple one, do you feel that the teachers do actually have a right to strike? Are they paid enough?
Let me just put it this way. I think we have actually shown, we have seen, we have carried out analysis of how teachers are paid in this region of East Africa, and even beyond. We have seen actually as far as Ghana. And we have actually seen that in this region of East Africa, the teachers of Kenya are actually better paid than the teachers of Tanzania.
But that
and the
doesn't
teachers
necessarily mean they're well
Uganda.
paid.
Yeah, no, I mean professional, when you talk of their professional category, in relation to other professional countries, I think it's only fair to say that over the last few years, the teachers' salaries have progressively improved to a level where actually they are paid in a comparable way to other public servants of an equivalent level, and even in certain cases the private sector.
So this action is not warranted?
Absolutely not. I think the government has put a very reasonable offer on the table.
Okay.
It hasn't closed the door onto the issue of the basic salary. It's only said, let us put this on hold for the time being. And in the private sector, as I said, every time that you have a major exercise and you want to review salary, you want to do a job evaluation, in order you have an objective data and criteria to be able to make those decisions.
Right.
You don't implement it, you say put them on hold. And when you have that information, which will inform that decision to give you so much and give me so much, that is actually when you implement.
Okay, so
in fact, it may turn out that it may be better for the teachers when that whole
in the long
process.
run. Okay, you've talked about putting it on hold, but as we do that, again, Dr. Lydia, this is something that is a recurrent theme. It really is. But in this specific case, can we hope, I'm sure there are many parents at home who are wondering, when are our kids going to get back to school? Can we hope for a resolution? Are the discussions completely stalled, or is there some light at the end of the tunnel?
That's a very fundamental question, because the parents are anxious, the pupils themselves are anxious, and everybody is anxious on this. This is why we have just said that the doors for negotiations are still open. When you get 39 demands, address all of them, and you are left with one, that one is not an impossible demand to look at. And therefore, we are really still appealing to the unions to call off the strike, for teachers to be in schools and look after the children, because we are seeing also that teachers have a responsibility. Remember, teachers are role models to the children that they teach. If they can't obey court orders, then how do they expect their students even to obey school rules? Because we are saying we must really follow the issue of law. And it's for this reason we are appealing to the teachers to go back to schools, teach. Their needs will be looked at. As we have mentioned, the government has done a lot for teachers in the recent past. And the employer values the services of the teachers. Even without the unions, the teachers would actually be paid appropriately well within the means of the government. And children should not continue suffering out there when teachers are withholding their services.
All right. And what will happen to the Form 1 selections? How will those be affected?
The Form 1 selection will go on because we are expecting this strike to be called off very soon, so that the normal school term and other activities related to school programs can be undertaken. Because it is the same teachers who handle the Form 1 selection, who handle admission of Form 1s, and it can't be done if they are not in school. And this is why the government is doing everything possible to ensure that teachers understand and go back to school.
But as yet, we don't have a clear idea of when this might be resolved.
We are hoping it's in the near future. Because why we are so hopeful about it is because the government is concerned about the welfare of the teachers. And the government has not closed the door. The government is only saying, please wait up to this time, so that there is even a salary increment that is justified, and this will be done. The teachers, as I mentioned earlier, are not less paid than other teachers.
Right.
Yeah, and therefore we hope that they can understand.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us this evening. Dr. Lydia Nzomo and Ali Noor Ismail. Now, let's remind you of our big Q this evening, still on the teachers' strike. We're asking you whether you think that teachers who stay away from class during the strike should be punished by the Teachers Service Commission.